Hello, physiological psychology students at Mary Baldwin College. This is Dr. Tausman coming to you live from Roanoke, Virginia, my house. I've been working all day to prep tonight's presentation on addictions, drugs, and so forth. I hope you find this information interesting. I put together basically an outline, an agenda, and I also copied a whole bunch of articles for you that'll serve as kind of reinforcement and backup. I hope you find this information on neurobiology of addiction interesting. I found it very interesting to put this presentation together. It's been a few years since I've done this particular one, and there's always a few new updates, so hopefully this will intrigue you. There's a lot of psychosocial issues involved with addiction. This is not the class to necessarily go into all that. The purpose of this class is to teach you what's going on in terms of pharmacology and biology here and psychopharmacology. So we will talk about some of that stuff, but more I'm going to try to teach you some of the facts going on, and I'd like you to write, obviously, your usual outlines up showing me in your own words that you understand some of the key ideas here. Your book is organized a little bit strangely. We're going to have a lot of information from Chapter 5. But Chapter 5 is organized unlike a lot of other books. Your book starts off with Chapter 5 with information about drugs in general, and then it decides to go into all these this information on stimulants, depressants, and so forth. Many times that information is in a different chapter, and usually that information starts off with what we're going over here at the end of the chapter that we're starting first. But it's instructor's prerogative when it comes to deciding what order and sequence, and hopefully I can bring it home to you in a reasonable way. So to get things started, I'd ask you to turn to page 176 of your book. Very interesting experiment. This is going to be the biology of reinforcement, 175, 6, and beyond. Interesting experiment by Olds and Milner. You can read the story about it on 176. They basically were interested in studying learning, and they wanted to put an electrode in the brain, basically, and see if an organism would learn to study things and learning and so forth. But what they ended up doing is they ended up putting in some electrodes in a particular area of the brain. The biggest structure around this area is called the nucleus accumbens. And basically what they did is they put these electrodes in, and they basically decided that whenever the rat would press a bar, they would deliver electricity into this area to see basically what happens. And what ended up happening was absolutely phenomenal. They found that the rat basically kept going back to this bar, pressing it and pressing it and pressing it. And if you look at the little chart on 513, they pressed it, cumulative responses in hours, 30 to 60,000 times, what does it say, per hour for more than 24 hours just to get the electricity into their brain. And so the idea was, what the heck is going on in the brain? And so researchers did more and more work on these areas, and they basically, if you turn to page 179 and 178, now we're not going to go into a ton of stuff here, but the important area is called the medial forebrain bundle, the MFB, the medial forebrain bundle. And the medial forebrain bundle, if you look at the picture on 179, contains a whole lot of interesting structures there, but the most important of those structures is the nucleus accumbens. The nucleus accumbens seems to be a key structure in the medial forebrain bundle that seems to mediate the addictive effects of stimulation in these areas of the brain. And so the medial forebrain bundle, and especially the structure known as the nucleus accumbens, became what is known as the reinforcement center of the brain. Now, this is very interesting. You could phrase things in a couple of different ways. You could say, hey, this is the reinforcement area of the brain or the motivational area of the brain. But if you take it to a real negative extreme, you could say this could be an addiction center. And when people get addicted, maybe there's something going on in this structure. So that's kind of the history about the medial forebrain bundle. The book actually provides more information than that. Let me see what I want to get to next here. You can go to the appendices on the agenda. Olds and Milner, 1954, the article by Bozart, something like that. You can read about it, and I ask you to kind of summarize this. The idea is, once again, this medial forebrain bundle appears to be the key structure, and if you deliver electricity up here, it seems to cause the animal to keep wanting to press the bar to keep getting the electricity upstairs. Let's take this to the next step. If you follow the article a little bit more, what it basically says is there must be some sort of neurotransmitter up there in the medial forebrain bundle in the structure called the nucleus accumbens. And there is indeed. If you look in your book, what you'll basically see is that the key neurotransmitter in that area of the brain is dopamine. Dopamine in the nucleus accumbens seems to be very, very important in mediating the addictive effects of this area. And basically what researchers have found is when you get the electricity up there, it causes a dopamine release. So dopamine as an agonist in the nucleus accumbens seems to be the controlling factor behind this. And if you look at the Bozart article, you can basically see that in other studies with rats and other animals, if they don't deliver electricity in that area, if they deliver amphetamine, cocaine, opioids like heroin or morphine, that the animals will actually keep pressing the bar to get the drugs up there, sometimes all the way to the point of killing themselves. So this area has been called the addictive center of the brain, and if you read the rest of the Bozart thing, you can see that this seems to be the key idea. Dopamine function seems to be related to this type of output. So the Bozart article says that. Following along with the Pierce article, very interesting. Drugs that are abused seem to cause their addictive effects. That includes stimulants, opioids, alcohol, cannabinoids, what an interesting word there, and nicotine. That these potentially abused drugs cause their effect by increasing the mesolimbic dopamine transmission in the nucleus accumbens. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I'd ask that you kind of summarize this information. The book goes through a lot more detail on this than I'm doing here, but you can certainly read about this and hopefully understand this in a good, reasonable way. So let's see what else I've got for you here. So that's the Bozart article, the Pierce summary. So this has been about 7 minutes on this one, and I think that'll do it.